Alright, ladies and gentlemen, it's right for the end. You didn't expect me to do this again? I'm sure there's at least one person out there that's watched the original video that didn't think I would redo it. Which, yes, that's what I'm doing. So today I'm basically redoing the robots tier list, but I'm changing it a bit. So right now I'm going to be ranking every single tier 4 robot, but I'm splitting it into two parts because I'm going to be ranking them separately, if you can even call it that. Simply right now I'm going to be ranking all the tier 4 robots between the Khepri and the Ravager. Because, spoilers, the same jock isn't here yet. And I'm not gonna bother trying to rank it yet, since I've not used it. And I've also not used the Condor or Ravager as much. Heck, I don't even have a Ravager at all. But I'm still gonna rank them. And I'm also not gonna do the same as the original, where I just rank them based on my personal preferences. I'm gonna rank them on base how I think if they're good. So, let's go ahead and get to it. So, starting, like I said, we're going to start off with the Khepri. So, the Khepri, I think, was the one that started it all. Like, the insanely brutal nerfs and small buffs that robots got. Khepri was certainly a monster when it came out. I mean, if I remember correctly, I think it took, like, 2 or maybe even 3 waves of nerfs for this thing to finally fall off. But I mean, especially when this thing came out with the aimbot guns, which are still to this day, I believe, like one of the most hated weapons in the game. But I'm pretty sure the Ultimate Shock Train and Ultimate Shredder probably take that. For the Khepri, I'm gonna put in B tier. And like I said, just like my original, these are all my opinions. My opinion, not anyone else's. You can write your tier list in the comments or make your own video. You can do that, but I don't want to get major criticism because I did not put your favorite robot in a tier you want me to. Alright, next up we have the Skyros. Now, I genuinely don't think the Skyros is the best robot when it comes to offensive capabilities. In fact, with all the new content we've got nowadays, using this thing to brawl is basically pointless. Its only purpose is basically just to be a ball and run beacons. That's about it. Like, and even so, even if you can brawl with this thing, it's stupid frame. But I mean, if I were to rank this, depending on its two ways, like if I were to rank it offensively, it would hands down be in D tier. There's no F tier, by the way, I'm not doing that. And there won't be a G tier like how I put the Condor. But if I were to rank it on its beacon capture capabilities, it is durable, but with the deaths before its nerfs, this thing might be held back. I'm gonna say screw it, put it in A tier. I think that sounds appropriate. Next up we have the Seraph. Oh man, I wanted to run this thing for the longest time when it came out. I mean, it was so cool. And we frankly have never gotten a robot like it ever since. At least design-wise. Like, when it gets in the air, you just can't stop and think, damn, that robot looked good. And if that's not in the way you will think, it's just so cool looking. But the Seraph just fell with the others. That was very strong when it came out, and was nerfed to Kingdom Come after a patch. Or an update, which I'm with. But where would I rank the Seraph? It's certainly it's solid against Titans. Not as bad. It's not as good as it used to be, but it's still somewhat solid. But I'm sorry for the Seraph and for Seraph users, but I'm putting it in C tier. Alright. Moving on. Next up, we have the Angler. This thing, I'm honestly surprised the angler is still being used nowadays. It's not used at all since it's not part of the meta, and I'm really getting sick of it. I mean, I'm going to be very happy with the Condor Ducks nerf so they can join the others. But the angler is the one that just honestly feels like you almost every game you just feel like you just see it everywhere. Like there's at least one person, regardless of team, that has at least one angler in their main hang. Whether that's it, even if it's in their second one, they're not using it. You're almost expected to see at least one angler in any game. The angler is just not as good as it used to be, but it's certainly still quite the tank. Its shield is tough, its durability is solid, but everything else about it is. But I'm gonna put the angler in the B tier with the Khepri. I know, all right. I know I'm gonna get so much hate for this. I know it's because I've talked about it before. Next is the Nether. If you guys have watched any piece of content of mine, you know how much I adore this robot. This robot is virtually everything. I mean, this thing alongside the Aether is getting buffed in I think next update. And I'm just so happy that this thing, even though it got nerfed to the ground so hard, like this thing is so froze that something as much as sneezes at it, it's dead. Which, yes, but I've certainly managed to make it work. I mean, look at my Howler Nether video. That thing hits so hard. Even though I did do that in my Crawler's Rumbling, so, which made it a little easy since I was playing low, which I did not want to torture myself trying to recreate my original Nether video from like around the start of my channel. So for you guys, you would probably put the Nether in like C or D, but I'm putting it in S tier. Y'all can complain in the comments all you want, but this is my robot, my tier list, my opinion. I used this a lot when it came out, and it's carried me through the leagues even after it was nerfed. Slightly. I had to ditch it for about 3 updates until I got some better weaponry. Alright, next up is the Emoji. Now, for the life of me, I don't think this thing's been nerfed a single time. Not once, I think. Aside from the Ardent Emoji bug to where it couldn't take damage properly. I think that was the only change it got. Aside from that, the emoji has basically been unnerfed. I think. I might need to look at the Wikipedia, because that always shows like if a robot got a change, buff, nerf, or even a model change like Death Duel. But yeah, the emoji is quite good actually. I mean no one uses the teleporting anymore almost at all. But this thing it's still weird. This thing has the support, but I can kind of get it. But this thing, even its firepower is not the greatest. 2 medium, 1 light is okay, but it's not like game breaking. And should we also give credit for how durable this thing is? Surprising. Like this thing can have all the HP pilot skills. And this year, it's a bit difficult to kill this thing, especially if you have quantum radar. And you know what? I'm just gonna put the emoji in S tier. Or, I think that sounds like an understatement. Or the wrong word. Yeah, I'll just leave the image in S tier. Because why not? Alright, the Lynx. Oh man, the robot that brought a really disliked feature back into the game, and to the youngsters don't know, but before the Lynx came out, Hexonic were planning to release an executioner module that basically allowed your robot to have almost an execute. I don't remember if it was like once per robot or was like a one-time effect like the cloaking unit before the module. And people were so against it that it was one of the only things that Pixonic got rid of. And then about a lot more later, they brought it back and put it on the Lynx. And this thing was certainly annoying to fight. And even nowadays, Lynx is just infuriating to face. But the Lynx is still very good, solid, I think. I mean, it really stinks that it got done dirty with the motion rework as a saboteur. I mean, what about it is it a saboteur? This thing was almost used as either for close quarters combat with the stakes when they were in their prime, or just, yeah, you know what? I think you could argue that people would use it for beacons because of its speed. And even so, it's still quite fast. It's survived a few rounds of nerfs, and like the Angler, you almost see one in almost any game. But where would I put it? I'm going to say I put it in an A tier. Yeah, I think the Lynx is still solid. If I do replace either my Dagon or Revenant, I'll probably replace it with a Lynx. Since I'm not on the plus the thing's getting nerfed to the ground and stuff. So that's another reason. Alright, now we have the Crisis. This robot really gave a lot of people the Crisis if you see one. Alright, I'll stop. But yeah, the Crisis was certainly something different when it came out. I mean, this thing was flat out ridiculous. I mean, especially, don't get me started when the Reapers were in their unnerfed state or their prime. Like, these things, you could kill almost anything with Prime, Crisis, and Reaper. Like, very few things could survive it. Just, it had so much firepower. And plus, the Shieldbreaker from its ability was ridiculously good. And even if I did think if they just gave a Quantum Radar or instead of Shieldbreaker, it would still be very good. But even after the few nerfs, I mean, this thing got nerfed twice, I think. Got like a slight reduction to its damage thingy with its ability, and pretty unnecessarily nerfed the stealth because it now takes 7 seconds for your Crisis to go back in stealth. And about 50% of the time, the Crisis is not going to last that long to get 7 seconds back. I don't think the Crisis is S tier because of that one small nerf. In fact, the Crisis, the Reaper nerf is kind of infamous. From a 7-second reel to 12, and then they thought that wasn't enough and increased it to 15. Like, the nerfs these days nowadays are getting a little ridiculous. I'm gonna just put it in A tier. Actually, I'm gonna put it up. Yeah, I did say it doesn't belong in S tier, but I'll at least put it at the top of A tier. I think that sounds appropriate. Now we have the Ophion. Alright, this one had a lot of tough shoes to fill. And by tough shoes, I mean this was probably one of the most annoying absorber robots that's ever come out. I mean, the Fafnir, you could argue, but the thing only gets its shield for 5 seconds. The Ophion gets it when taken off, and when it lands, and before it touches the ground. But this thing got nerfed like everything else, and it's barely enough. I don't even think it's even worth a run anymore since its flight duration's so slow. It's like less than half the Condors, which is both ridiculous and kind of funny. I mean, its durability is kind of solid, but that's really about it. And its weapons aren't even that strong. And for that, I'm probably just gonna put this one in C tier with the Sarah. Right. Now we have ourselves a personal story. We have the Achokachi. If you were to ask me what my darkest memory I had back in the day when this thing came out, if you were to tell me one thing I disliked about the Justice Hunt event, this robot would automatically be your answer. This thing is probably one of the most annoying robots to fight. It is almost the equivalent of the Newton before that thing got nerfed. Like spoilers for when I make my Titan tier list, which I still have yet to make. The Newton is the most unfair Titan to ever come out. And you could argue it's annoying, but I think the Achikachi is just as bad as it, since you can run 5. Prime Achikachi was just so ridiculous. And it's easily, and since, even to this day, where it's no longer as good, and like got nerfed 3 times, if I remember correctly, this is still my least favorite robot in the entire game, with a close second being the Ducks. But we will get to that. The Achikachi, if I were to rank it personally, I'd put it down here with the Mars. But for God's sake, I'm gonna just put this in the top of B tier. Yeah, no questions asked. Now we have the Dagon. Now this one is kind of famous for the robot to literally break the rule of Big Sonic. No robot should have more than 4 weapons, no more, no less. And yet they still made the Dagon with 6 light weapons, which was kind of crazy at the time. Now the Dagon is, I mean, like I said in my original video, I think people debate it's either called Dagon or Dagon. I just personally call it Dagon. That's how I said it when it was first revealed. That's how I'm calling it. The Dagon is very, just like the Skyros, it's very frail. If it's either a shield breaker or its shield is down. But its firepower is certainly the one thing I think works it. And even for me, I currently run a rhyme Dagon with a frozen tamer, since I only have 5 that rhymes, not 6. And yeah, it's certainly got nerfed, and it's not as strong. And I think it's also the reason why the Magnetar and the hazard weapons were nerfed. And arguably, the hazard, Blight, and Decay did not deserve the interval nerf. They did not deserve it. Like they're basically the go-to weapons for free to play, and they just took those away because they were like, quote unquote, tired of seeing people use them, because they just want people to buy the new shit. Yes, and also kind of upsets me the Dagon is no longer in the blue data pads, because I want to get one on my baby account. But it is what. For Dagon, I'm gonna probably. I'm gonna put it at A tier. I don't think it deserves to be. Actually, I'm gonna move the links in Skyrim. Swap the links in Skyrim. And now we have, next up is the Curie, which still has probably the best paint job when it was first revealed. Like, look at this. Just look at the Curie when it was first revealed on the test server to how it looks now. You see the color difference? The Curie looks so much better with this blue, I guess, turquoise or teal blue color, compared to this what I call poop brown. This color looks so much better than the one we have nowadays. I don't know why they got rid of it. And plus, it would also make a ton more sense, so it would line up more with the Eiffel's color scheme. In fact, they're both basically the same thing, but this function slightly different. But like I like the Curie, but I love the Curie nowadays, but I really did not like it when it was first revealed. In fact, I was one of the few people who actually got the Curie when the thing first came out during the 2023 Cooler Winter. And I was not fast enough to get an Eiffel, which could have gotten me the Frosty title if I was not robbed with the vault data. In fact, the Frosty title is actually the second title I could have had right now if I did not get robbed. I could have had the Swarm Slayer title during 10.0 if my account wasn't broken, but I wanted a Pathfinder, and I'm pretty sure you know the rest. If you don't, my friends can tell you. The Curie, where should I even put this thing? It definitely does not deserve S tier. I mean, you could argue since it is quite durable. I mean, I haven't used it in quite a long time. I don't know what. You know what? I'm just gonna put an S tier because I don't know what else to do with it. I'll probably put it above the. Yeah, I'm just gonna have it above the. Alright, next up is the Shenlu, which of all the robots that got nerfed, I think the Shenlu was done the dirtiest. Like, the nerfs it got were fine, but the changing its shield from the personal to a dome really hurts it. And plus, you have to wait 5 seconds before you can teleport to another robot, which really murdered this. The Shenlu was kind of ridiculous when it came out. Having the firepower of a Fenrir and having 3 Scorpion teleports, and I think nowadays people would just use the Scorpion since you can get stealth from it, and the Shenlu does not. And the Shenlu had all these crazy abilities, and yet, I think the Scorpion was better after it got nerfed. And plus, Scorpion got that little bug with the reduced cooldown and extended teleportation, which I'm pretty sure at the time was sort of like a hidden thingy with like people thinking we're gonna get an ultimate Scorpion at some point. Pixo, please no, we don't want a Scorpion with 3 medium weapons and that ridiculous fire range. We already, honestly, just please discontinue the ultimates unless you're gonna give us an ultimate deal like I have up here. If you already noticed at the start of the video, Shenlu, I'm just gonna flat and put it in C. Yeah, I don't think it deserves D's. It's certainly not unusable. It has a purpose, but you guys probably do. Alright, now we have ourselves probably one of my favorite robots that's come out more recently. We have the Pathfinder. Oh man, I like the Nether. I love the Pathfinder. It's really fun to use. Yes, it's not as strong. It's also, I really blame Pixo for nerfing it. It does not deserve the nerf to everything it's getting. But I mean, at least they're not nerfing the effect. Because if they did, I would riot at their company. I would literally get up what I'm doing. Hell, even try to rob a bank just so I can get a ticket to Moscow, Russia, and just storm their headquarters and tell them to not nerf the Pathfinder. I would seriously love to do that with everything they've done. With everything they've done that made the game really bad. But I don't think it's worth trying to go to prison as the aftermath. Just for one robot in the game. Yeah, the Pathfinder, the Pathfinder is basically one of those must-kill targets. Like, if you see it, you want to get rid of that as fast as possible before it gets out of control with the Pathfinder. It is frail, but you could sort of mitigate that with its drone, which I still have yet to get my hands on. I'm just gonna say, screw it. Pathfinder is an S tier. It dethrones the Nether. Sorry to my Nether. I love it a lot. I love the Nether more than the Pathfinder, but the Pathfinder has to get the higher spot because it's a lot more useful than the Nether. All right, and now we have ourselves probably the robot that's getting nerfed next update. That's probably gonna be completely gutted from the game. We have the Raptor. The Raptor is still to this day probably. I honestly think the Raptor is one of the most badly designed robots, since it's basically just a copy-paste of the Luchador, or as I call it, Orphan Child. And probably one of, just simply put, Raptor, worst designed robot that's ever come out. And its design isn't bad. It's just its ability is what ruins it. And plus the Raptors and the Blue Dave had, everyone's gonna have it, but they only did that with the Raptor and the Bagliore because they're both getting nerfed. Which Bagliore is gonna be after the Raptor? Raptor is going to, if I were to, I would rank the Raptor differently depending on the update. With the current one, Raptor would obviously be at the top of S tier, but if we were doing this after the nerfs, Raptor would be about maybe even B tier, or heck, even put here, since its jump height is so short. But yeah, I think this is just gonna be before the nerfs, so Raptor will just be S tier. I hate you, but you're being below the Nether. Alright, the Bagliore. Now, before I get into it, I have a personal story with you guys. When the Bagliore came out, I really tried so hard to get my hands on one. And The Ravager came out, I think, last year, and cut to now, I finally have it, but it took me until from the day it came out to now for me to buy, actually get one. Because I've just been robbed on the data pads so much. Because everyone else had this thing except me. And probably some players that have come to the game or returned. Since Pixar is just you got like I even burned through I think about like 10 purple gold data pads before it rotated and still haven't gotten my hands on it. Like I will personally never go through that long of buying a robot ever again. I'm not doing it with the Bjorn Titan next time. Or Bjorn. I don't even know how you pronounce it, but I don't care. But just the Bagliori is honestly, I'm just gonna flat put this in S tier. It's stupidly tanky for a sniper. Its speed is slow, which makes sense. And also, the boost it gets is probably one of the best passes I've ever seen. And plus, the flashing escape, while it's getting nerfed from 35 seconds to 20 seconds, which is bad for this, I still think the Bagliori is probably one of the better robots that's come out. And I still kind of blame the Athos existing to making one of the... It's honestly just funny how this thing was intended to be a sniper robot, and while a lot of people out there when it came out were using it for brawling, which I still find was really funny. Bagliori deserves S tier. The one robot I will never want to hunt again. Alright, next up we have the Condor. Now, I'm not going to go completely ballistic and swear a storm like I did in my original video when I talked about it. Just simply put, Condor's an S tier, and I would not want. Actually, screw it. I'm putting it in an A tier. I'm putting it in an A tier. The Condor is just not probably one of the worst balanced robots that's ever come out. It's not balanced whatsoever. It's definitely not going to be balanced. It's not going to be balanced at all with the update next one with its nerfs. It's just the way it works kind of pisses everyone off. Like, it gets great damage healing so quickly. And if you guys remember with Wolf, you know what? I'm just going to let Wolf17 specialize it with what he said in his... I'll let him talk about it. And Wolf17, you truly said it right. It's really ridiculous how the Demeter pilot was nerfed in like 24 hours because Pixar thought it was too strong. And the Condor has that same thing, and Pixar is not touching it until the next update. It took them, I think, 4 months for them to finally nerf the healing on this thing. And that is 4 months, I think, too late. So yeah, Condor gets a certified 18. And next up we have the Ducks, the robot that has inspired me to do this video. Since last time I did this, I did not include the Ducks because it wasn't on the tier list and I never got to use it. So where would I put the Ducks? Like the Condor, the Ducks is like the worst design. Its design concept is interesting and cool, but the way it's executed is where it stinks. And about when the Ultimate Blitz came out and with the Ultimate Shredder, it led to what I personally call the no skill setup. You run the Ducks with the Ultimate Shredder. I call it no skill. And honestly, in general, sometimes you put the Ultimate Shredder on something, it's a no skill set. Even if it's on a Destrier, it's going to be a no skill setup. Just the Ducks is the worst designed robot that's ever been made. Honestly, worse than the Raptor, personally. And just this thing, you almost couldn't kill. You couldn't even survive against this thing. And the Mauler was the only thing that could survive even a smidge of the power from the Ducks. Its healing was too much. It had spell. defense mitigation, and a stupidly high defense output. Damage output, not defense. In fact, when I did that Rust Bucket collab with the concepts, we said that the ducks would be so much more balanced if the weapons did not work, but if its main weapons didn't fire alongside the drones. Like, I think that would make the ducks a little better, but it wouldn't be as ridiculous. It's still ridiculous, but it would be not as ridiculous if it disabled you from firing your weapons as the ability was going on, which was ridiculous. So yeah, Ducks is going to the bottom of S tier. Alright, and we are at the last robot for the video. We have the Ravager. Now, I personally have never used this thing one bit. I don't even own one, and I've not used it on the test server because it's still illogical that Pixel recently allowed iOS players to test server, and again left us Steam players in the dust. Since iOS and Android players get the updates first, Steam players have to wait about a week. And yeah, the Ravager, it's certainly not fair that this thing exists. I mean, design-wise, I like it. But, like the Dragon right here, broke the rule of having more than 4 weapons. In fact, he even has more firepower than some robots with 4 heavies. And arguably, I think of all the robots that exist, I think the Bagliori has the highest damage output. Because 4 heavy weapons and the 12 stacks from its ground capacity. The Ravager, I just don't have anything else to say about it. I have not used this thing, but one thing I can say is that regular Ravager is just not a fun set. It's not fun fighting this thing with the regulars. If it has them. Like, it's just not a fair fight. It also complains to me so much that this thing is the regulators are snipers. It's not. The Ravager will be an S tier. And yeah, there we go. That will be my tier list of ranking every tier 4 robot from the Khepri to the Ravager. And to recap, in S tier we have Pathfinder, Bagliori, Nether, Ravager, Fury, Emoji, and Ducks. A tier, Condor, Crisis, Lynx, Skyrus, Dragon, B, Achakanchi, Khepri, Angler, C, Seraph, Ophion, and Shenlu. And D tier is the Mars. So, thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are already going to complain in the comments about me even doing this again, but I'm sorry, I ran out of ideas prior to doing this. But, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.